Hi, everybody. Welcome to Conversation with Calvin, We the Species. It's the middle of September, chronologically. I'm actually going to turn on, I got a new toy for my birthday. It's an on-air button. So now we're officially on air. And I'm with Sid Mohasseb, and hugely honored to have Sid spend some time here. And it's funny, there was a skit on Saturday Night Live. One of the characters was verklempt, couldn't speak, and it's almost like I can't speak because where do I begin to highlight Sid's life and the honor of him being here? So, just in my own little notes, when he was 7 years old, he took it upon himself. He had a genetic disorder, and at 7, he's trying to cure this and take care of himself. At 14, he's running poetry. At 16, he convinced his parents it's time to come to America, and they came to America. At 21, he's an entrepreneur. And by the way, he's called an entrepreneur philosopher. And one of Sid's saying is, and I love this, evolve always. And he's gone on to be a professor and a writer and a thinker and a motivator and an entrepreneur. And I could probably do a 30-minute intro as to his accomplishments, but I'm not. Because we want to get a chance to talk to Sid. And I said when we first just met a little while ago, there's a screenplay here of your journey. Truly, it's a remarkable journey where you're at and what you accomplish, what you continue to accomplish. Listen up, folks. This is a very special interview. So, Sid, if you want to just say a couple of background things, and then we'll jump into some chat.
Well, first, I want to thank you for your very kind words. We all, if you look at it, have a movie in us, if you really look at it. Each one is different, but we all come from different places, have different journeys, and so forth. And I've been kind of blessed in experiencing this journey, as you said. Now, I usually, people ask me, so who are you? And in most cases, people jump into what they've done. I've built this and I've done this. I think, I mean, I'll be happy to answer any questions about what I've done, but I don't think what I've accomplished is as important as perhaps the experience mentally from choices and decisions and those things that I can share with your audience. Not because I've done them and they're good, but because there are options for them to choose from. At the end, we're all different and we all make decisions and we all build our life in our own way. As long as we are aware of all the choices available to us, both emotionally and mentally and real in real world and and on our talents and our situations, then we can evolve as you said. That's
Evolve always. I love
yes,
that.
sir.
I love that. You talk about being the entrepreneur philosopher. Um, how has that philosophical uh, study shaped the way you approach entrepreneurship? Because you've done a lot of things with entrepreneurship and decision making and risk. How does all that play?
So you see, Calvin, a lot of people look at entrepreneurship as an activity to make money. So you work for someone or you do this, and the objective is for you to have a great life and lots of money and boats and homes and all that sort of stuff. Uh, that, in essence, is a um, characterization of what really entrepreneurship is. It was never meant to be that. It's something that people have defined. We are an entrepreneur when we work for a company. We're an entrepreneur when we're home and with our family. Because entrepreneurship, by definition, is if you have something and you're exchanging it with something better, and you choose what you have, and you choose what is better, and there's no guarantee that you're going to get it. Therefore, there's a risk. Now, in order for you and I and each one of us to be able to kind of turn this idea, this paradigm of I have something, I need something of higher value, I'm willing to exchange this, and there is risk. We all have need to build our own philosophy of how we approach things. How do we how do we look at risk? How do we look at commitment? How do we look at our emotions? How do we look at learning? How do we look at nervousness? How do we look at all these parameters? How do we how do we look at where we come from and where we're going? Because we each are different. You see, there are 110 billion people on the planet that have come and gone. There are no two people that are alike. We're all different. There are 8 billion now. We've all come from different families. We've played with different toys, fell in love with different people, went to different schools. Some were rich, some were poor, some were black, some were white, some were tall, some were short. We have experienced life differently. So we're not the same. So here's where this idea of we have to build our own philosophy and awareness comes from. If you go to all these sites and all these social media places and all these motivational stuff, there's do one, two, three, and you're going to be a millionaire. Do one, two, three, and practical advice to become a trillionaire. Practical for who? Yeah.
Mhm.
Practical for you and me is completely different. It's not. So I believe that it is our own philosophy, the way we look at life, the way we put the pieces of the puzzle together, the way we define satisfaction. You know, why should am I successful if I have a law degree? Am I successful if I'm a good salesman? Am I successful if I have two kids who are doctors? Am I successful if I'm a great athlete? Uh, maybe by external definitions, I am. You know. But I may not be satisfied. I may have hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars, but have a horrible life inside. I'm unhappy. Um, there's someone who just shared with me who became a pharmacist and had making money and good life, and guess what? Was unhappy. But by the definition of being a pharmacist and having all this great life and a home and a this and a that, that was pretty successful. So it's just we need to evolve our own way. And if we do that, and that doesn't mean believe in nonsense, it's not, I can do, I can be on top of the mountain. I'm not. I'm 5'3". I can't go and play basketball with LeBron James. That's stupid, right? Well, in terms of reality and how we all, and this is why I say evolve always. It's a step. It's a step. So as I was talking about all this stuff, you asked about the philosophy part of my entrepreneurship label, if you would. I was on I think I was on a interview with BBC or some channel in UK, and the guy was like, well, Shmata, I think you're just a philosopher. So when they did the promotions and the thing, they said the entrepreneur philosopher. That kind of stuck with me because I look at life from a different angle, essentially. Does that explain it?
Yeah, you did explain it. It's interesting. You used an example of a pharmacist who wasn't happy. I was a pharmacist, wasn't happy, and he's becoming a dear friend. Mustafa Amar was an Egyptian pharmacist, and didn't want to do it anymore. And before he wanted to be a diplomat, and before he knew it, bing bang, he's the diplomat for Egypt in Beijing. And it kind of makes me think about a little bit about your journey. And he did that for a few years, and then he didn't want to do that anymore. He became an investment banker, and he raised money for Middle Eastern agriculture. And then did that a few years, and then didn't want to do that either. And he decided to write a book to teach people to change careers. So, it's interesting, and I'm thinking about I'm thinking about you.
The thing is, Calvin, let me just, the thing is that I see this in a lot of younger ex-Gen people, Gen X people. We've taught these folks the way they learn is a lot of stuff is fed into their mind. And then it's super competitive to go to college. Everybody has to be a 5.0 and a this and then they say, okay, you've told me to do this study and SAT and a this and a this and a that. And that. Okay, so what do I do next? What do I do next? Right? So they are looking for somebody else to define what success is. And okay, do this. This is practical for you. We have lost or losing the ability to create a future. We are shoved into a future.
I'm writing that down. I like that. I like that. I'm taking notes, by the way.
So the thing is, we are all super. I mean, this thing I say it's genetic. Somebody says, well, which genes is it? But let's call it's inherent. About 500,000 years ago, Calvin, and this is research study done by like University of Austin, Texas, and some other places. We built a desire, a gene in ourselves, human beings, which is not about survival, which is not about surviving. It's about thriving. It's about wanting more, wanting different, wanting better. So, I mean, this is the reason that they moved from outside sleeping in the rain to the cave. This is why they thought, oh, if I have some sort of a tool, wouldn't it be interesting that it's easier? Wouldn't it be better if I cook the meat and eat it? So they wanted better, right? This exchange of what we have for something better is in our genes. It's it's in our genes. We are designed to do this. We are designed to do this. And but our education system is one that is designed to put us in giving us skills, not skillfulness. We have a lot of skills. Our kids have tremendous amount of skills. I mean, we're trying to put in this lane and then drive in this lane and hope. And I'm going to define a success down here for you at station 72B, and then you get off and then you're good. As opposed to a journey that you sit in your car and you go in every direction like your friend. Let's go to Beijing, let's go discover, let's go and we define satisfaction in our way. Now that doesn't mean we do stupid things. you know People think when I talk like this, oh, so we should do acid and or jump off of an 18th floor building. Well, that's stupid. That's not exploring. That's suicide. You know. Or I can't sit here and I decide, well, I want to be the king of England. Well, I can't be the king of England. It's just not feasible, not possible. But hey, I can be the king of my own kingdom. I could be a lot of things, and that's a matter of evolution. That's a matter of awareness of my situation, my talents, my things, and slowly evolving. And that's why the evolve always comes from,
Yeah.
you know.
Okay. Um, you grew up with hemophilia and you migrated at a young age and you published, as I mentioned in my intro, you published poetry as a teenager. How did those early experiences influence your beliefs about being self-sufficient, failure, resistance, evolving?
Well, if first of all, when you're in it, you don't know it. So it's not a conscious decision that I was a determined man at the age of 14 or 16 that I didn't know what I was doing. I was just thinking that this is a better choice than this. So I came to the States, as you mentioned, at the age of 16, and I came by myself with the hemophilia and with uh, truly my parents were not for it because for obvious reasons. My grandfather uh, brought my father and the family from a small town in Iran to the capital. About this is now 150 years ago, I guess. And as they were in a bus driving, coming to the capital, my father, who is now passed away, he should have been like 110 now, asks his father at 7 years old, "Why are we moving to the capital?" And my grandfather says, "In small water, small fish will grow. In big water, big fish will grow. I want my children to grow up in big water." A very simplistic analogy,
Yeah.
right? But I use the same analogy that my father says, "I can't argue with it. Go." So that's how I kind of ended up here, if you would, in terms of now what have I learned? If I look back, there's this thing we call risk. The younger we are, the way we look at risk is a perception. Risk is a perception. You see, if you want to jump from four steps down, or if I want to jump, I consider that a big risk. Man, I may break this, and then well, I've got to be in the hospital for 3 months or whatever. A 5-year-old doesn't take those risks. The perception of that 5-year-old is not that this is a bad thing. So the act is the same. I want to make the act
Hmm.
is the exact same thing. But you and I may see it as pretty risky, and that other person, a 5-year-old, may not see it as risky. The act is the same. So the act is not the risk, the perception is the risk. To be honest with you, I didn't see any risk in what I was doing because either I was naive, I didn't have enough information or intelligence. And I didn't know about the rewards on the other side either. I didn't plan to be this or that, or it just happened. Now, why did it happen? Now, this is the conclusion that I've come up with after almost 50 years of being in the state. A little, yeah. So I just told you we're all entrepreneurs. We all exchange what we have with something better, and we take a risk. I think all immigrants are also entrepreneurs, but they don't know it. But they practice it more. Notice when they go from one place to another, then they're practicing their entrepreneurship more. They realize that they have exchanged what they have. It may have been a bad place, it may have been even a good place. They have moved from somewhere to someplace else without any infrastructure, without often lots of money, without any contacts, without any family, and they've landed. Why? Because they wanted to exchange what they have with something better. They defined what is better, and they defined what they had, and there was risk. I may not get a job. My family may do this. How do I live with this? It may not work. And if you notice, a lot of them have become entrepreneurs. From the ones that come from very very poor areas or very poor families. They may stand in the corner and sell this or that. They may start a stand-up thing. They may you see about I read somewhere around between 25 to 30% of all businesses in US are owned by immigrants.
Wow. Wow. Wow.
Okay, so they practice their entrepreneurship. So if I look back now, I was not doing anything magical. I was just practicing what's inherent in me, not knowing what the risk measures were.
Okay. Okay. Uh, in today's it's an unbelievably fast changing business environment with AI and data analytics and global competition. There's so much going on. How do you stay relevant, and avoid leaving things to chance? It's a matter of relevancy. And parenthetically, AI. I saw this movie in the '60s, 2001, written by Arthur Clarke, A Space Odyssey. And this is in the '60s, and you have a computer taking over the spaceship. So that's AI. We think AI, started last year or the year before, AI was way back in the 60s, maybe before that. But
Yeah,
anyway,
actually, it marks into about 1950s by a couple of guys in East Coast. Um, uh, I think in late 50s, if I'm not mistaken, or very early 60s, they even came up with a computer doctor who would actually diagnose and who would just tell you. But then there was a what they call a AI winter, that the infrastructure wasn't moving fast enough. It didn't have enough capability to consume data and so forth. So it went dormant for a while. And then as we became more capable in terms of processing information, chips and computers and things of that sort, it became more viable. But back to your question, uh, I think, Calvin, we are at the cusp of an amazing evolution period. And when I say at the cusp, it may be 50 years this way or that way or 20 years. So we're not talking about, a 20-minute, time frame. There's something called the explosion era. Explosion era started 40 years ago. This explosion era is when starts when we know how to do math. Two plus two is four. We realize it. We start painting in the caves and discovering clothing and all that. And our journey was both a physical evolution and finding tools that does things or keeps us busy with doing things. Right. Uh, with the advent of AI, it seems like we have discovered an amazing capability that if we connect our mind to it, I may read 100 books, you may read 1,000 books, but I have access to hundreds of thousands of books from day one of the universe. So I can be pretty knowledgeable very quickly. So what that means is that my physical evolution, my focus on tasks of going to the library and finding these things and writing a report and driving a car and all of that stuff that's mechanical and taxing things. I can have somebody do it. I can have something do it. So that creates a vacuum of what the hell do I do? Let's fast forward for a minute, Calvin, 20, 30 years from now, or 40 years, doesn't matter. The time frame is in decades, right? And you're sitting in your car because every car is being driven autonomously in the back, and your job has been changed. You're not doing what and what are you doing in the back of that car? Just sitting there, Instagramming or Facebooking things. What are you doing? But your job is to go to the restroom and back, and they feed you at 12 o'clock, and uh, that seems like the future that's being painted. We are at the cusp of an entirely new evolution, which has to do with our creativity and innovation. It is time for us to 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 change our evolution path from doing things to creating things, to imagining things, to using all these vast stuff that's around us to be able to do that. But I don't think we are ready because the media paints this thing as the most horrible thing. Oh, you're going to lose your job. You're gonna be horrible. This is horrible. I don't think our education system has designed us to be able to do that. So there's pain ahead.
yeah,
There's pain ahead.
yeah,
Um, for us to adopt, for us to realize that, hey, we have something and we can exchange it with something better. But better is not what we have now. There is a better.
okay. You it's kind of scary, but listen, when they invented the car, and we went from horses to a car, that was pain.
Yep.
and the whole industrial revolution, pain and adjustment and all these things. There wasn't a chain of blacksmiths back in those days putting, horseshoes on horses, and they were out of business all of a sudden. So there's lots of pain. Pain is change. Change is pain. Whatever. It's evolve always. Going back to what you said, evolve always.
No pain, no gain. What
That's
they
right.
say, the athletes.
Yeah.
But there is going to be. See, you mentioned the cars. I remember I read somewhere about this uprising of all the people in New York. That hey, we have 5,000 people cleaning the poops of the horses. So what are these people gonna do? Oh, this is horrible. Guess what? Nothing happened.
Yeah.
They found a different job. They did
Yeah.
a different thing. Nothing happened.
It's absorption. I call it absorption. We
Yeah.
just get absorbed into a different world, slowly and methodically and sometimes seamlessly, and that's what's happening,
It's as I mentioned, risk is a perception. So is fear.
Okay.
So is fear. Fear of what do I do? Yes, there is reality to it that okay, if I don't have any expertise to do anything else except doing this, yes, I have to be afraid, but I'm taking a risk because I don't want to choose to do anything else. I like my comfort zone. I like where I am. Okay, that's a choice.
Um, in your remarkable journey, you started your first company when you were in college,
That's
uh,
right.
and you became a partner in a consulting firm. You were pretty young at that point. What were some of the hard transitions from this kind of stuff, both professionally and personally, during that journey? You had to make transitions in yourself. Well,
Uh,
you evolve.
Yeah, yeah. So I have a friend of mine who I've known for from teenage years, and she told me once. She said, um, "Nobody notices that you're in a transition, and then we see you here, and you're not here anymore." Now, the thing is, and she's absolutely right. Um, I have probably had multiple lives, if you would. I've every 5, 6 years I've changed something, I've created something, and so forth. I have been. I started a company, then I was a consultant. I became a partner. Then I thought, oh, these people who are doing turnarounds, buying and selling businesses, that's a good idea. So that's what I did. And then I saw all these opportunities to build technology based companies. So I started 3 or 4 companies and then I sold them and then I thought, oh, isn't that great, let's do carve outs, and then I did that, and then and then I was a professor at different places along the way, and then I sold the company, and then I circled back and sold the company to a big firm and became the head of innovation, and then I wrote books, and then right, so all of that stuff has had like 4 or 5 year transition, 5, 6 year transition time frame. uh, so it is true that I have transitioned a lot. That's what. But what I've noticed again, this is not when you're in it, you don't realize it. This is after the fact. Uh, I don't pivot, which is very different than. But I don't pivoting means you get to a point and you make right turn or left turn. I generally dance, which is okay, I'm enjoying this more than this. So I begin to walk in that direction in a way that it seems like I'm not transitioning, but I'm transitioning. Now, we all do that, by the way. We all do that, but we are unaware of this transitioning. We just see the point where you're either A and you've changed, now you're B. uh, you're unhappy at the job that you're at, right? So, and you have 2 kids, and you have a wife, and you have a home, and you have a car. And if you want to quit, there is a problem with all of these financial obligations. So you begin a year or 2 years before thinking about how unhappy you are. Now you have to convince your wife. Now you have to figure out, okay, how do I, if I don't do this, do I learn a new trick? Do I make new friends? Do I? Now, some of us ignore that need for transition. So we block ourselves, and then we have to at some point jump off the cliff without okay, the wife is unhappy, the kids are this, I have to sell the house. You knew that you had to transition 2 3 years before, but because of our comfort zone, because it was a familiar behavior, we didn't want to make that change. So later we have to face that transition problem. Right? This idea of evolve always is we're always looking for something better. This is not once in our life. We're always every day. I'll give an example. Hey, tomorrow morning you're gonna go grocery shopping, right? You make a decision, do I go right or left? You make a decision, do I go to Ralph's or Alphabet or whatever? You make a decision. It may not be conscious. You make a decision, do I walk or take the car? You make the decision, do I buy meat from this place or vegetable from that place or bread from that place? You're making decisions all day long, every day. And you know why you're doing that? Because you want something better. The reason you go to this alphabet or that, the reason you take this road is because this is a nicer road, there's not much traffic, or this road because you want to get there fast and you want to stay on your phone and you want to make sure that you have signal. I don't know. But every day we're making these decisions. Every day. And if you're conscious of it, then it's a transition. We're always evolving, we're always choosing. The question is, are we aware that we're choosing?
Yeah.
Most of us are not.
Interesting. 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 Um, I just want to go off topic, uh, take a, take a deep breath and ask a couple of questions I borrowed from one of my favorite journalists, Barbara Walters. So uh, here's the scenario: excluding family or friends, somebody living or dead you'd like to spend a day with. Could be a couple answers. There's no rules.
Oh, I have a lot.
Oh, good. Whatever you want
Uh,
to.
Mother Teresa, Martin Luther King, Cyrus the Great, um, maybe my grandfather. Um, there's a lot. I could list this forever.
Okay, that's good. That's good. Um, uh, yeah, I in my novel I talk about Dr. King all the time. And one of the more moving parts of my life is he was actually speaking in February 1963 before he gave his famous speech in August of that year. He was actually speaking 6 blocks from my house. I was 17,
Yeah,
and I didn't go to see him speak. And from that moment, I've had regrets all my life, and it taught me a life lesson that when you get these opportunities,
take
you
him,
take them. Don't
take them.
take them. And it was from Dr. King, and I'm forever quoting him. And life is
So
kind.
here's the thing. People don't think about it this way, but Dr. King was an entrepreneur. He had something. He had imagination. He had his tools of his faith. He had a dream. He had it right, and he wanted to exchange that with something better, not for himself, but for a society. So he defined what is better. He defined. He could have stayed in the church. He could have made people pay him, and he could have had a very great life. But he chose. He chose what he had, and he chose and he took the risk. That's an entrepreneur.
Yeah, yeah, sure. Um, do you have any favorite movies?
Favorite movies. That Lion King, maybe.
Okay, sure. This-
I mean, they're old movies that are all Gone with the Winds and those things. That's how, everybody says. But the Usual Suspects is one that's interesting. It comes to. Um,
Okay. I asked that only because personally, movies have changed my life. Uh,
ah,
well, it completely changed. Casablanca. I watched that movie, and all of a sudden, at the end of the movie, a novel comes in my head, and I read a novel,
mm.
and my whole life completely evolves. There we go, evolve always. Whole life evolved because
Now, let me ask you a question. This is it.
sure.
This is you mentioned that you saw the Casablanca and you saw that point and you said, "Okay, I'm writing a novel." Now, you must have been ready before that. What I want to know is not what happened at that moment. You had thoughts, you had imaginations, you had things that when you saw that, then you saw it, if that makes sense.
No, it does.
It's not the moment that matters. It what happens on both sides, that the awareness of being able to see that. I want you to think about it. What happened before.
Well, it's a great question. It's a really introspective question. All I know, there was stuff inside me,
Hmm.
was this turmoil inside me for a long, long time. And I express it in my novel. The character is very similar to me. It was this turmoil. There was this stuff that wanted to come out, a creative thing, and it just got stuck. And because of the exigencies of modern life, these things get suppressed and buried, and so often they don't get a chance to come out and evolve. To evolve. So this stuff was inside me. It needed to evolve. And that watching the Casablanca was that piece of energy that I was able to feed off of and evolve.
So we're looking for a trigger, Calvin.
Yeah.
If you see the trigger, you pull it. If you don't see the trigger, you may have watched three other movies and done nothing.
Hmm.
You follow what I'm saying?
Oh, sure.
It was your readiness to
Yes, I
you
was
were
ready.
ready to take this action. You were looking for an excuse to push it through this thing, and this movie gave you that excuse. Every day we meet people at the coffee place. We meet them at the we get on the phone. We get to the person behind the counter that serves you at the restaurant, at the gas station, everywhere. They're all giving us excuses to pull the trigger.
Yeah. I was just fortunate that I did pull the trigger
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
because I would have been doing whatever I was doing, and
yeah.
we wouldn't be talking now. So I did pull the trigger, and I'm so grateful I did because it's
And that's what I call awareness. You know why you pulled the trigger at that point? So let's discuss this for a minute. I know I'm going on a
no, this is
tangent here.
fine. This is fine.
You know, it's what I call awareness or mindfulness or activating mindfulness. Mindfulness, I don't mean, let's sit in the room and imagine and be zenful, It's being aware of everything, our emotions, our fears, our commitments, our situations. How old am I? How much money do I have? How much the realities of the world? Where is the market? Where is this? Where is that? All that. Am I married? Am I not married? What is my wife want? All those kind of things. My talents. I'm not a basketball player. I'm not a musician. I'm not. So be aware that I suck at singing. So I shouldn't be thinking that it's a good thing to do. It just I suck. So being realistic about the talents, everything with that awareness, and not at one point being aware of my biases, right? If I'm aware of those things, then at a point I look at the trigger and I put all of that stuff together to make a decision. To make a decision. In my mind, I've balanced risk and outcome
Hmm.
at that moment. So you have over time had figured this stuff out in your back end. Some awareness, some perception of risk, and then at that moment, when you saw that opportunity, that was the excuse to pull the trigger. Guess what? We have an excuse to pull the trigger every minute of every day,
We don't.
but we don't.
We don't. Hmm. So interesting. I try to analyze myself. I've never. I'm an old-fashioned guy. Before we had GPS, I never asked for directions because I had a philosophy. I live in New Jersey, and if you head due east, you're going to hit the ocean, so you can't get lost. If you head due west, you're going to hit the Delaware River. So why bother asking for directions? And part of that is when these things are inside, I never asked for help. I should have. It might have saved me a decade here or there. You learn and you become aware. That's that word you keep repeating, awareness. So I've become so much more aware today. I'm able to converse and discuss. Um, uh, anyway, um,
So
I
now you see why they call me the philosopher, because I
yeah,
get you to think about this stuff that nobody
sure
thinks
have.
about.
This is this is wonderful. Really, absolutely wonderful. I'm going to walk away from this slightly levitated. It's nice to be levitated. It doesn't happen a lot, but that's what you've done, Sid. Um, where do you find inspiration now? Are there philosophers, authors think? Oh, by the way, before we go any further, The Caterpillar's Edge. I just need to kind of promote that's your latest book, The Caterpillar's Edge.
That's the previous book. The latest
Previous?
is You Are Not Them.
Okay, which I have laying around here somewhere. Okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
It- uh,
But that's fine if either one is it's fine. You Are Not Them is more poetic. It was a bestseller in philosophy and business.
okay, then I'll.
Yeah, it's a different kind of a book, but I'm proud of both of them. I've edited each one of them 1,000 times, I guess. I don't know whether like
I know all about that. I know all about editing. Every night I used to write when I was writing both my novels. Every night I'd write 3 or 4 pages, go up on the exercise bike, and
Yep.
and edit and sit on the bike and pedal, and it's a way of life, hard to describe, uh, really hard to describe. And I always fantasize I'm going to get interviewed, on Stephen Colbert or Jimmy Fallon. And they're gonna talk about my journey to writing and everything involved and all the years and the pains and the loneliness, all these emotions, and the fantasy is they're going to ask me my advice to the 300,000 people who write new books each year, and I say to them, well, one word. I have one word of advice to everybody: don't, don't. And that's a long story. So where do you find inspiration now, and how do you feed your curiosity now at this point in your life?
Um, this may sound like a canned answer, but it's not. I just found it from you. You just told me you lived 3 blocks away or 6 blocks away from Martin Luther King, and you didn't do it. You didn't go there, and and that's inspiration to me. Meaning, hey, learn something. Don't lose the opportunities. Be aware. Be cautious.
Yeah,
There is greatness 6 blocks away.
yeah.
There is greatness always 6 blocks away. So how do I learn? This is how.
Okay.
And I'm serious. I
Yeah,
learn.
and I'm moved by this. Yeah, it was one of the most powerful examples of my life, and I referred back to that. I mean, I was a kid. I didn't know any better. You don't know any better, but there was this wonderful opportunity to be. I would have sat in the first row. I would have been 2 feet away from Dr. King.
Yeah.
and I didn't. And that forever has changed the way I think and moved, especially
Yeah.
now, later life. Powerful stuff that you seize the moment and you do all this stuff and you grow and you evolve. All right, last question. It's a nice way to wrap up. I have about 50 more questions, but to be tabled. I was so exuberant in putting this together, and but anyway, the last
I talk too much, huh, Calvin?
no, not enough. By the way, not enough. So there, not enough with your journey and the things you've learned and what you've done. Not enough.
Thank you.
Two words, not enough to answer that. Um, what advice would you give to young entrepreneurs who like just starting out, and maybe they come from underserved backgrounds or face some adversity? So, what advice would you give?
I'll give the advice that I give myself, and it may be because I've been asked this question before many times, and I've thought about it. Of what would I tell them? I would give a single advice, which I would give to myself. Listen more. Now, why do I say that? This has been turned into this, oh, listen, so you're empathetic to somebody else and they feel good. No, no, no. Listen for a very selfish reason of learning. Listen to realize your biases and differences. Listen because if you know more, you make better decisions. Whether you are in the projects or you are in a castle, whether you're tall or you're short, whether your IQ is 1,000 or 100, doesn't matter. The more you listen, genuinely, not listen just to, listening in the background, listen to learn, listen to consume, because the more you listen, the more aware you are. The more aware you are, the better decisions you make. I have a thing that say I don't have a regret about anything because I believe that at that moment I made that decision based on the level of my awareness. So I don't regret the decision, but I do regret I didn't listen more. Because if I had listened, I would be more intelligent. I would be more aware. I could make better decisions.
Oh, that's great. I got to make a meme of that. Listen more. That is such an essence of growth and the evolution and learning and succeeding. Listen more. I thank you for this.
Thank you for having me, Calvin. It
Uh,
was a pleasure.
Sid, sometimes I quote in situations like this. I quote Clint Eastwood in one of his early movies, Dirty Harry movies. Watch how I frame this. Anyway, in one of his movies, Dirty Harry movies, he says something along the lines, "Sid, you made my day," and you
Thank you so much. You're
and
very kind.
and you did, and you did, and you did. So we're gonna, hey, I'm officially inviting you to come back. You ever want to just sit and even more informal and listen and talk and
Wonderful. Be delighted to do that. One thing I wanted to mention on our part was we have this Anabasis Academy.
yes, yes.
And Anabasis, Ana means moving up, moving the base up. Anabasisacademy.org. And maybe you could put that in the notes of the show or
I
whatever.
absolutely will.
And if it's a place where it's a provocative place. It's a very non-academic academy. And I had AI look at this, and I say compare the academy to all other places of learning and education, and it says radically different, radically transformational, radically I'm serious. I gave it to Grok, I gave it to all those sort of stuff, and so it's not what you think.
Okay.
It's about fusing, bringing entrepreneurship the way I defined it, and you talked about it, with mindfulness and awareness. It's about provoking you to be able to take the pieces of the puzzle and put it in your own unique way because we're all each unique.
Right.
So that's and we have a single mission. If you're better, if I'm better, if we all are able to evolve a little more, create a little better, we're going to be in a wonderful world.
Correct. We just have to we have to learn.
Want to do it.
Yeah, we have a lot to do. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Don't leave. Uh I'm just gonna stop recording. We'll do a 2-minute wrap. This was great. Thank you.